Number 10. The Ranger Sentries. The Ranger Sentries are one of the newer additions to this list, but in such a short time they have made a massive impression. I mean, they even made their way into the Power Rangers fighting game Battle for the Grid. But for those who don't know, the Ranger Sentries are from the Boom Studios comic series. They work for the villainous Lord Draken and are soldiers who are connected to the Morphin Grid with powers Draken stole from Rangers he killed. They look awesome and they have their own powerful weapons and were a key part of the Shattered Grid event. And they help Draken take over multiple worlds and kill tons of Rangers and civilians. Number 9, A-Squad. I feel like A-Squad would be probably a bit higher on this list if they were in it more. They were mentioned a lot throughout the season, but they were only in it for like a couple of episodes. They were this famous team of Rangers that were, the best for in the SPD. Even better than the main Rangers of the series, who were the B-Squad. Well, turns out that they were actually just straight up evil and not as perfect as everyone thought. They also had some interesting outfits. Their helmets were, of course, from Power Rangers in Space, but the rest of them was a hybrid of like a Ranger suit and also some high-tech military armor. It was actually really cool. I wish we could have learned more about them and had them in more episodes, but hey, they were still cool in the time they were given. And the story of the SPD's fabled A-Squad turning out to be the villains was actually really, really interesting. Number 8. Rita Repulsa movie version. Let me just say I love the 2017 Power Rangers movie. It honored the original series, but brought its own unique modern spin. Unfortunately, it didn't do as well as they were hoping, so the sequel got scrapped, and now we will never see those Rangers fight Tommy Oliver in the sequel like the after credits scene was teasing. But we did get to see them fight a Green Ranger, and that was of course Rita Repulsa. Yes, in this version, Rita was actually part of the original Ranger team that was led by Zordon. It was a cool twist. It added a really unique dynamic to the Ranger-Rita rivalry. She was the Green Ranger of that team and killed the other Rangers, except Zordon, who was the Red. He managed to get their power coins and hide them from her until they could find new Rangers worthy of harnessing their power. Rita kept hers, and once she returns, she uses that coin, and we get to see her harness the Green Ranger power plus her own, and it was pretty awesome. It was cool to see how her suit adapted and got kind of corrupted. She was a great villain, and the ending set up her and her base on the moon. Elizabeth Banks did such a good job, and I would have loved to see where they would have taken her in the sequels. Number 7, Jason and Kimberly. I feel like some people might have forgotten about this one, but to this day, it's still one of the scariest Evil Ranger moments. I mean, their deep, altered voices were just scary all on their own. But if you don't remember, let me jog your memory. Evil Jason and Kimberly didn't come from an episode or a comic book. It came from a movie, Turbo, a Power Rangers movie to be exact. Divatox kidnaps and sacrifices them as a part of her plan to bring back Malagor. And the two of them come back as evil minions for him. They have enhanced strength, deep voices, as I mentioned, and red eyes. It makes for a truly terrifying combo. They fight the Turbo Rangers and actually do a ton of damage. Eventually they were restored back to normal and all is well, but it was still so cool and terrifying to see them take on the Rangers like that. Plus, fans finally got to see Jason in a Power Rangers movie since he wasn't included in the Mighty Morphin movie, which was really sad. Number 6, the Ranger Slayer. Like the Ranger Sentries, the Ranger Slayer comes from the comic series and is a new addition to the Power Rangers canon. The Ranger Slayer is actually Kimberly Hart, who was the original Pink Ranger from an alternate reality. But don't be fooled. She is not a good guy. Well, I mean at first. She was brainwashed into working for Draken and ended up killing other Power Rangers. Her story in that dimension was actually pretty similar to the original, at first. That is until Draken kills some of her teammates and her boyfriend, which makes her try to go and take on him herself. She has an altered suit and possesses the Bow of Darkness, and became known as the Ranger Slayer. The Ranger Slayer is scary, deadly, and one of the coolest things to come out of the Power Rangers comics.
Number 5, Power Rangers Mystic Force. This is the other boo-boo I made in part 1, where instead of Mystic Force, I accidentally used Mystic Warriors. People need to be more imaginative with their damn fan-made names. Anyway, all saltiness aside, Mystic Force is right up my alley. Because there's magic. And I love magic. Mystic Force is way more fantasy inspired than other versions. Years ago, an army of the undead led by the evil Mordecon tried to take over the human realm. However, a legion of wizards managed to drive them off and cast them back to the underworld. But then when the show begins, the army is once again attacking, and in true Power Ranger fashion, 5 teenagers are chosen to fight the undead army using magic. The Zords are similarly fantastical, with a phoenix, a Garuda, mermaid, a sprite, and a minotaur, which is totally badass. They even make friends with a genie. Yeah, If you're looking for a change of pace, Mystic Force is the way to go. Number 4. Power Rangers in Space. Last list, a lot of people had an issue with the fact that I had Lost Galaxy and not In Space. Frankly, it was just because I watched Last Galaxy more when I was a kid, but as luck would have it, I get to do a part 2, so we can have both. Power Rangers in Space was the 6th season in the franchise and was actually intended to be the last. But the ratings were so huge, it kinda saved the franchise. Why the big ratings? Well, they changed up a bunch of things. It was the first season to use an orchestral score instead of rock music. It changed up a bunch of the characters, but most of all, it was the conclusion to the previous 6 seasons, which really helped to revitalize the story, which was becoming a bit dull. This season saw the Space Rangers, with their astromorphers, taking on the evil Astronema, who was the sister of the Red Ranger Andros, while trying to save Zordon. The Zords aren't as cool as some of the other seasons since they're just spaceships, but the emotional conclusion to the Zordon era was pretty great. And sad. R.I.P. Zordon. Number 3. Power Rangers Zeo. Zeo was a big one for Power Rangers. It was the 4th season and the first time that the costumes changed. This would of course be the first of many costume changes, and it wasn't exactly a surprise since Super Sentai did the same thing a lot, but it was still a bit risky, especially since kids often don't do so well with change. However, since the ratings were dropping, they knew they had to change things up, and rather than killing off a main character, they decided to change up the costumes and also power up the Rangers. It was the first time robotic villains were seen, when previously the Rangers had more or less had the monopoly on robotics. Anyway, Zeo saw a new set of Rangers take on the mantle after harnessing the power of the Zeo Crystal, becoming Power Rangers Zeo. They used their weapons and Zeo Zords to take on King Mondo's army of mechs. Mondo was basically Dr. Eggman from Sonic with his mechanical minions, but he somehow managed to be even less competent. Number 2. Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Dino Thunder was, in my opinion, one of the coolest looking teams of all the seasons. It was the 12th season and saw the return of dinosaurs, something that I'm always a fan of. It also saw the return of none other than Tommy Oliver, the hugely popular character best known as the Green Ranger. This time he was fittingly a paleontology professor, and 3 of his detention students found dino gems, turning them and Tommy into Dino Rangers. The gems gave them superpowers, with different members gaining different powers, like super speed, super strength, and a sonic scream. They had a bunch of cool weapons and vehicles, but as with any dinosaur season, the highlight for me is the Zords. Tyrannosaurs, Tricerazord, Pterazord, Dragozord, Stegozord. So great. Dinosaurs are cool. And there's a bit of a confusing story behind this one too. The Dino Gems came from the meteors that killed off the dinosaurs, but in Dino Supercharge End of Extinction, it was retconned so that the dinosaurs never went extinct, so these Rangers wouldn't have gotten their powers. But then Super Ninja Steel revealed that Dino Charge actually took place in an alternate universe, so everything is still canon. Good. Number 1. Power Rangers SPD. SPD, the 13th season, is seen as one of the best by some, but not all fans agree. SPD, or Space Patrol Delta, takes place in 2025, when the Trubian Empire decides to attack Earth. The A Squad of the SPD decides to go rogue, so the B Squad has to take the reins, and the series had a lot going for it. The acting was actually quite good, with surprisingly decent actors bringing some legitimacy to the show. This allowed for more character-centric episodes, with each character getting their own episode to flesh out their personality, which is probably part of why some younger viewers didn't like it as much. They had some cool weapons and cool vehicles, although they weren't animals, so they lost out a bit in my books. It was also the first season to have a female Red Ranger, which was pretty nifty. Go ahead, call me a soy boy, I think it's great. That said, the season wasn't perfect. Some fans thought they borrowed too much from the Super Sentai counterpart, and others thought the characters were boring. But that doesn't stop SPD from being one of the highest rated seasons ever.
Number 10. Phone Panzy. During the Ninja Steel season of the show that ran in 2017 and 2018, the Rangers were forced into a gladiatorial-style intergalactic tournament called Galaxy Warriors. They faced many competitors who were trying to kill them and steal the Ninja Power Stars. Oh, that sounds important. One who actually came pretty close to besting the team was the contestant named Phone Panzy. As is implied by the name, he is a hybrid of a chimpanzee and a phone. Although he is a capable hand-to-hand combatant and can unleash basher bots upon his enemies, his real strengths come from the deception skills that his phone parts grant him. Not only can he use the speaker in his mouth to unleash a massive sonic boom that would send his enemies flying, but he could mimic voices with uncanny accuracy. This allowed him to imitate a ranger and then call up one of their teammates, who he would then draw into a trap and attack. The host of the Galaxy Warriors, Cosmo Royale, then used a Gigantify machine to turn Phone Panzy giant, forcing the Rangers to use their Zords to form the Ninja Steel Megazord and the Bull Rider Megazord. They defeated the giant monster, who promptly exploded. Okay, that's weird, but I think I'm following this okay so far. As long as the villains don't get any stranger than that, I should be fine. Number 9. Typeface. Oh come on, that's a keyboard! After the Ninja Steel season, fans of the Power Rangers were given the Super Ninja Steel season. Like Phone Panzy, Typeface is a contestant in the Galaxy Warriors. He could summon basher bolts and was an expert fighter, being able to hold his own against multiple Rangers at once, which is really impressive because he doesn't look like he'd be super mobile. He can fire lasers out of his hands and spacebar, which were powerful enough to incapacitate all 6 of the Rangers. And he is also a teleporter, but his real strength is more tech-based, which, yeah, I should hope so, otherwise the theming is kinda weird. He has a virus gun, which can infect the weapons of the Rangers, making them unable to effectively fight his with their Element Star Ninja Fire attack. The Rangers were eventually able to repair their weapons and attack Typeface, and Cosmo Royale repeated his strategy of growing Typeface into a giant monster who had to be defeated by a Megazord. However, this was a difficult task due to him being able to use his teleportation abilities to dodge several attacks and gain the upper hand for a while. However, the Rangers were eventually able to take him out with the Ninja Blaze Megazord's Ranger Blast final attack. Yeah, you gotta watch out for those. Number 8. Pandemonium. In the Mighty Morphin comic series, the new Green Ranger destroyed the Green Chaos Crystal, which left the infamous Lord Zed incapacitated. As he recovered in the Moon Palace, Zed's cronies discussed their options about what their next course of action should be. They considered eliminating their boss, but decided against it as it would require them to grow spines, and instead decided to try and capture the Green Ranger so that when Lord Zed awoke, he would have someone to vent his frustrations on other than them. They created a creature called Pandemonium, who was of course a panda who had super strength, as well as an entire arsenal of spears and axes sticking out of his back, which he could remove and use against the team. He could also give off massive energy blasts, which damaged anyone caught in his vicinity. The panda gave the team some trouble, but was defeated when the new Green Ranger showed up and used his dragon dagger to destroy the creature. Zed's cronies watched from afar and bemoaned that they had chosen too cute and cuddly of an animal to be their agent of destruction. Number 7. Horrid King. In the Power Rangers comic series, the Rangers and Zordon are not on good terms, as the Rangers have taken off in a ship searching for a means of defeating the Imperials in deep space with the evil Lord Drakon serving as their guide. Things soon start going south when their ship stops working and they discover that they have been boarded by a frightening race of alien energy-draining vampires known as the Horrid, and their king. The Horrid were once a peaceful race of people, but their planet was destroyed when they attempted to control reality, trapping them in between dimensions, neither alive or dead. They learned that they could absorb other beings' life forces in order to take on a physical form. The Horrid King led them across the galaxy looking for beings that they could absorb before coming across the Rangers. The king and all of his people cannot be harmed by physical attacks when in a non-physical form, as all weapons simply pass through them. However, if they have fed enough to take on a physical form, they become vulnerable. This weakness was exploited by Drakon, who killed the Horrid King and took his place as the Horrid's leader. Number 6. Vargoyle. Vargoyle, the robotic villain, was one of the early inventions of Scrozzle, but when they discovered something called the Fury Cells, Vargoyle used them to become powerful beyond measure, but also evil. Scrozzle escaped and Vargoyle followed, but eventually agreed to work for Evox in exchange for the Beast Powers upgrade. He was sent after the Rangers, where he feigned being weaker than he was to lull them into a false sense of security before unleashing his full might when they least expected it. He manages to install a memory rewriting machine in a local TV transmitting tower to wipe everyone's memories of his boss's previous attacks. This was undone, and he was destroyed by Devon's Beast X cannon. He was revived by the villain Ryjack, who wanted to form an alliance with Evox. This revived Vargoyle had an upgraded golden body, but was also fitted with a compliance collar, which he of course was not thrilled about. His teleportation and weapon summoning powers are handy, and his beast powers give him a real edge between his cheetah speed and gorilla strength, but it was not long before this evil robot was taken out again, never to be rebuilt.
Number 5. The Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. Most Rangers are human coming from Earth, which makes sense because most actors nowadays tend to be human for some reason. However, in Alien Rangers, the Power Rangers have been turned to children, and Zordon needs to get new Rangers from the planet Aquitar. Aquitar also has 5 water-dwelling alien Rangers that protect their planet, and they're enlisted to protect Earth while its Rangers are stuck as kids. They fight using their telepathically controlled Battleborgs, not to be confused with the Beetleborgs, who look really similar but are from a different show altogether. Number 4. Power Rangers Samurai. Even if you haven't been paying much attention to Power Rangers recently, you may be aware of Power Rangers Samurai. I certainly heard a lot about it a while back. This is based on the 33rd season of Super Sentai and sees the Rangers with samurai-based costumes. They fight against the surprisingly cool-looking netherworld creatures called the Nilox. In this series, the main Zords are called folding Zords, bizarrely, and they're based on a lion, a dragon, a turtle, a bear, and an ape. And yes, the turtle is by far the worst one. Number 3. Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Oh my god, I had completely forgotten about this show, but right when I saw the title, the theme song suddenly popped into my head so clearly. Wow. Lost Galaxy is kinda like Power Rangers meets Star Trek, and it was pretty awesome. At least 8-year-old Ron thought so. Coolest thing about this series was the Psycho Rangers, an evil group of Power Rangers who work for the villains Scorpius and Trakina. And just look at them, they're so sick! Plus, in the beginning, instead of Zords, they have Galactabeasts, which look like this. And they're just by far the coolest looking Zords of all of them. Except Wildcat. The Wildcat looks so stupid. Number 2. Power Rangers Mystic Warriors. This is definitely the most magical of the Power Rangers teams, and as a fantasy nerd, it makes me so happy. I wish I was younger when this came out, I would have been all over it. This was the first team to actually become their Zords rather than pilot them, which was wicked. They turn into Zords based on the Phoenix, Garuda, Mermaid, Sprite, and my personal favorite, the Minotaur. Yeah. Plus they have really cool Megazords. If everyone except Phoenix combines, they turn into the Mystic Dragon, which Mystic Phoenix can then ride. How cool is that? Number 1. The Boom Comics. Just a few years ago, Boom Studios started doing a new Power Rangers comic book series, and it's pretty wicked. And yeah, Boom has an exclamation mark after it, so I have to say it like that. An upcoming story arc tells of another version of the Power Rangers. In their reality, the Green Ranger went rogue and killed all the other Rangers, and took over his own world, becoming Lord Draken. But he isn't satisfied with just one world, because now he'll be going around to other worlds to take out all the Rangers around. This is a celebration of the 25th anniversary and won't be a comic to miss. Look forward to that in spring 2018. And no, they aren't paying me to say that, it just looks cool.
Coming in at number 10 is Shredder. Now, while you may have heard of the TMNT villain Shredder, I bet you haven't heard of him as a Ranger. In 2019/2020's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover comic, the Turtles' greatest enemy and leader of the Foot Clan has managed to capture Tommy Oliver, who was trying to infiltrate the Ninja Clan for some other undisclosed reasons. With Tommy caught now, Shredder found it pretty simple to steal Tommy's Dragon Power Coin, allowing Shredder to corrupt it and use it for his own ends, turning himself into the Green Ranger. He gets all the normal Power Ranger power-ups alongside his own abilities as a Master Ninja, which makes him one hell of a threat. His look is really cool too, mixing both the look of the Green Ranger with Shredder's classic look to create a super imposing villain. Number 9. Amelia Jones. Power Rangers recently is continuing on in 2023 with a new series, Cosmic Fury. The new Power Rangers series will be a continuation of Power Rangers Dino Fury, except that now the Power Rangers will go to space. Very cool. But something big for Power Rangers also happens with Cosmic Fury, as it was announced that this season will have Power Rangers' first female Red Ranger, Amelia Jones, the current Pink Ranger for Dino Fury. It's important to point out that there have been a few female Red Rangers in the Power Rangers universe across both the shows and the comics over time, yet all of them only really appeared briefly. For example, Charlie, the evil Red Ranger from Power Rangers SPD, only appeared in a very small arc. The same is true for Lauren, who briefly appeared in Power Rangers Samurai. However, Cosmic Fury will be the first time a Power Rangers team will have a female Red Ranger for the whole season. Amelia was the very first character audiences were introduced to in Power Rangers Dino Fury, and it was through her search for the Dino Henge that the Dino Fury Power Rangers of Earth even came to be in the first place. Before you keep watching this video, make sure to drop a like if you like what you've seen so far. Anything helps when trying to grow our channel even further, so your support is appreciated. Thank you. But coming in at number 8 is the Teenage Mutant Turtle Rangers. So with Shredder now possessing the Dragon Coin, he joins up with Rita Repulsa, because if you're gonna have a crossover, you gotta get everyone involved, right? Somehow Shredder found a way to make it impossible for the Rangers to use their coins to morph, making it possible for him to come out on top in the fight against them, forcing them to retreat with the aid of Casey Jones. The Rangers, now unable to use their coins, agree to give the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles plus April O'Neil steal their power coins, turning the turtles into Teenage Mutant Turtle Rangers, and I cannot lie here, it's pretty awesome. Instead of Jason, Kim, Zach, Trini, and Billy using their coins to help out in the fight, they put together ragtag sets of ninja-like armor and weapons. Now, as the Ninja Rangers, they team up with Casey and head to infiltrate the Technodome to try to free the imprisoned Tommy Oliver, while the Turtle Rangers go and kick some butt. It's really cool. Number 7, Archon. Okay, so Archon here isn't really a Power Ranger, but he is a former member of the Empowered, who are a group of beings gifted with a direct connection to the Morphin Grid's energy, kind of like Power Rangers, but not really. Archon, son of Invon and High Sword of Cersina, is suited up in what looks like samurai armor, with a sword and a shield, and this humanoid-looking chicken eagle alien thing is an elder on Safe Haven, and he is highly respected and seemingly highly capable. Although, he plays more of a background role in the comics, seeming to just help protect the people of Safe Haven. Except for this one time when Hartoonian refugees showed up and he seemed to want to completely destroy them since their species was responsible for the downfall of his own, but luckily Zach, the Black Ranger, intervenes to stop this from happening, and it's just one big hullabaloo. But again, he isn't a ranger, but he's just a really good character and he looks so awesome. So, sorry. Number 6, Ranger X. Yep, we're still looking at the TMNT Power Rangers crossover here, but that was volume 1. Thankfully, in 2022, we got the second volume and it has some equally awesome moments. Maybe this one isn't exactly awesome, but at least it's really cool. See, in volume 2, Casey Jones gets corrupted by the villains of Dimension X, and he managed to become Ranger X, an evil ranger. Casey's usual hockey stick weapons have been converted into an energy scythe, which is so cool, and he also wields 2 laser Eskrima. His ranger armor is like all black and white with a big red glowing X in the center. He's got these really cool spiked shoulder pads cause hockey, and he kicks some serious butt. It's just too bad that for the most part of the story, he is a bad guy. Or is he? You'll have to read it and find out.
Number 5, Robo Ranger Tommy. This version of Tommy was a robot that showed up in the 25th anniversary special Dimensions in Danger. He was created by the villain known as Lord Draven, who, you know, sounds very similar to Lord Draken. Maybe they just didn't want to actually use him or couldn't. But anywho, he has the powers of the Black Dino Ranger. He didn't last a very long time though, as he was destroyed by Tommy during the episode, but we still got to see a cool fight, you know, Tommy fighting himself. The Robo Ranger was helping Draven steal powers for his cyborg army. During the battle with Tommy, we were introduced to Tommy's Master Morpher, which was created in the comics, and during the fight, Tommy goes through all of his previous Ranger forms, which was very, very cool to see. And yeah, he eventually destroys Draven and goes about his day. Number 4, the Spirit Rangers. The Spirit Rangers were the evil rangers that showed up during Power Rangers Jungle Fury. They were created by the Phantom Beasts as a way to destroy the Power Rangers. They consist of the Green Elephant Spirit Ranger, the Black Bat Spirit Ranger, and the Blue Shark Spirit Ranger. As the season went on, the Masters controlling them were freed, and the Spirit Rangers could now fight alongside the main Rangers, whenever the Rangers summoned them, of course. They were a cool addition to the Jungle Fury story and had some really cool suits. Honestly, I feel like Jungle Fury is kind of like an underrated season. I mean, it had some really cool ideas, and for some reason I feel like a lot of people forget about it. If you have a chance, you should go back and just watch it. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. Or maybe you won't, and that's okay too. Number 3, Evil Wind Rangers. The Evil Wind Rangers come from the Dino Thunder, Ninja Storm crossover episodes. Lothor returns from the Abyss of Evil and casts a spell on the Wind Rangers, making them, you know, go evil. But just the main 3, Shane, Tori, and Dustin. Cam then realizes what's happening and he calls in the Dino Rangers for help, along with Hunter and Blake as well. These episodes are considered to be one of the best Power Ranger crossover episodes. It was very cool to see the Wind Rangers meet the Dino Rangers and have them duke it out. And for a while, Shane, Tori, and Dustin actually had no problem beating Connor, Ethan, and Kira. They fight unmorphed a lot in this as well, since both teams actually have powers outside of their Ranger forms. Eventually, Cam figures out a way to get them back to normal, but by tricking them into thinking that they're actually getting upgrades, when in reality it breaks the hold that Lothor has on them. The Wind Rangers then team up with the Dino Rangers and defeat Lothor and Mesogog, and it's really awesome. I mean, that morphing sequence was pretty crazy. Number 2, the Magna Defender. Okay, So, technically, Magnet Defender is not straight up evil, and there are a couple versions. One of them was, Mike, who was Leo's brother from Lost Galaxy, who was supposed to be the original Red Lost Galaxy Ranger, but, I digress. We are not going to talk about when Mike inherited the power. Instead, we're going to focus on the first incarnation. The original Magnet Defender was originally the protector of the lights of Orion, but ended up losing his way when Scorpius destroyed his planet and killed his son. He even ended up possessing Mike's body at one point. Now, like I said, he's not a straight up evil ranger, but he did fight the Lost Galaxy Rangers, specifically Leo, while he was on a mission of revenge, when he kind of lost his way. And he's just pretty awesome. And any opportunity I get to include him, I'll take it, because he is just so cool. Number 1, the Titanium Ranger. The Titanium Ranger, also known as Ryan Mitchell, was the evil / 6th Ranger during Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. He is a son of Captain Mitchell. When he was a kid, he, his father, and his sister, Dana, were all involved in a car accident. They were hanging off a cliff, and Captain Mitchell only had a secure grasp on his daughter Dana. Just as Ryan was about to fall, Diabolico appeared and offered to save Ryan, but he would raise Ryan himself, and Captain Mitchell wouldn't see him again until his 20th birthday. Although conflicted about it at first, Captain Mitchell ended up agreeing so that his son could live. Because of this, Ryan grew up with Diabolico and was fed lies that his father abandoned him, and so he ended up hating him. He then broke into the Aqua Base and stole the Titanium Morpher. His mission was to destroy the Rangers, and he was just really powerful. He did become good though in the end and joined the team. Also, fun fact, the Titanium Ranger is actually an American creation. He has no Super Sentai counterpart, which was the first for the franchise at the time. It's also why he wasn't featured as heavily as some fans would have liked. Still, it was really, really cool though, and I think they did a great job with the suit.
Number 10, Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Ninja Storm, the 11th season, was a weird time for Power Rangers. They barely survived being cancelled by moving filming to New Zealand and going non-union, and the New Zealand thing stuck. The show continued to be filmed there for years. But this season did see the return of OG production manager Doug Sloan, who was with the show from the beginning up until Turbo. As you probably guessed, this was a ninja-inspired team fighting against the evil and surprisingly funny Lothor with the help of their Zords and Power Spheres, as well as a number of weapons and gadgets. It's a lot more lighthearted than previous versions, which some fans loved and others didn't like. Personally, I think the whole concept of Power Rangers is so damn campy that it's best to keep it as lighthearted as possible, so I love this. Let's be real, this is a formulaic show where people beat up big baddies and hop in their big machines and fight them some more. It's not The Godfather. Give me some damn levity. Number 9, Power Rangers Jungle Fury. Jungle Fury, the 16th season of the show, was a bit of a victim of circumstance. It took place during the 2007-2008 Writers Guild strike, which means several episodes in the middle had to be written by non-union writers instead of the original ones. When the real writers came back, they were stuck trying to work everything back into a cohesive story that they liked, and it got kinda weird. That said, it actually turned out to be a pretty popular season. It started out with just 3 Rangers, which let us really get to know them, plus their martial arts were totally rad. But there were definitely some drawbacks too. The villains were largely considered weak, one of whom was named Jared. I'll let you figure out how popular that decision was. And since the writers were stuck in a corner thanks to the strike, the ending was super anticlimactic. But it wasn't the worst season ever, and the theme song was totally rockin'. Number 8, Power Rangers Wild Force. Here's the first of my boo-boos from last time, because I accidentally used a fan-made Wild Prime instead of Wild Force. Jerks. But this time I've got the right one, and it's a really cool one. First and foremost, the Zords are insanely cool. They had all sorts of awesome animal Zords: giraffe, shark, elephant, eagle, lion, tiger, and bears. Oh my! Sorry, got carried away. As I was saying, the Wild Force had a bunch of Zords with even more combinations. They fought against the Orgs, the evil mutant demon things with horns, who, as the Red Ranger learned, have no hearts, and one was a wedding dress. Like previous seasons, the Wild Force had team-up episodes, but they took it a bit further this time. Since it was the 10th season, they did something special and had an episode called Forever Red. It saw Cole Evans, the Wild Force Red Ranger, team up with the other 9 Red Rangers in a final showdown with the Machine Empire. It was pretty cool. Number 7, Power Rangers Time Force. Time Force was the 9th season of Power Rangers, and similar to In Space and Lost Galaxy, it's generally considered to be among the darker seasons. It involved death and social issues like racism more than previous seasons. Instead of teens, the Time Force was made up of professional adults, Time Force officers who went to the past to stop Ransik and his army of convicts. Ransik was pretty interesting relative to other Power Rangers villains since he actually had some good qualities. He clearly cared about his daughter Nadira, even turning himself in at the end after he accidentally hits her. Also, fun fact, they had to cut certain scenes out of the final version. This is because this season came out soon after the attack on September 11th, and scenes of people screaming while buildings come crashing down would have been kind of in bad taste. Okay, that wasn't actually a fun fact, so that was just a fact. Oh, and that reminds me, if you're a fan of the show Friends, there was one airport scene that ended up being cut because of 9/11, but if you want to see it, look up Friends Airport Security. I was so psyched to see 4 minutes of Friends that I had never seen. I didn't even plan this. Number 6, Power Rangers RPM. RPM, the 17th season of Power Rangers, almost didn't get made, since Disney originally planned to cancel the series after Jungle Fury. But possibly due to a contract dispute with Bandai, they caved and made RPM. And it went off to a pretty crazy start, with executive producer Eddie Gazelian having blown through the entire budget halfway through the season. So he was fired. But the season ended up being fairly well received. Personally, I love the Zords. A lot of the vehicle seasons have kind of lame ones where they're just like cars or spaceships. But that's lame, I want animals. And RPM made a compromise, making cars that look like animals. Yeah, shark, wolf, croc, eagle, lion, bear, falcon, tiger, whale. So many. And they're pretty cool. The series was actually pretty dark too, taking place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland in an alternate universe, which was weird for some, especially with how strange it was having colorful rangers in a dreary wasteland, but they were so badass that a lot of people were totally cool with it. Oh, and are you wondering what RPM stands for? Me too. They never actually said in the show. One would assume rotations per minute, but that isn't exactly badass. But Bandai says it stands for Racing Performance Machine, so let's go with that. Side note, Bandai sounds totally wrong. Should it be Bandai? All the commercials say Bandai. I don't know what to believe.
Number 5, the original Omega Rangers. The Omega Rangers are a small but ancient faction or team of rangers that are specifically around to operate in the most dangerous and most remote areas of space, and they're powered by the classical elements of fire, water, earth, and air. Now originally, the team was around many millennia ago on the Morphin Master's homeworld of Safe Haven. They were originally composed of Bledsoe, the Red Ranger of Fire, Apathy, the Black Ranger of Air, the Purim Yellow Ranger of Earth, Haza, the Blue Ranger of Water, and one other, Spark, the Gold Ranger who represented the sun. But Spark, having learned the pain that comes with loss when he lost one of his fellow Rangers, turned on the remaining Rangers, being taken over by the possibilities of having death-defying powers. He became the Death Ranger, which, if you've seen our most powerful Ranger video, is one of the most powerful Rangers out there, even if he's evil. Despite that though, the Omega Rangers were able to stop and imprison Spark until he came back at a later date, as tends to be the case with most villains. Number 4, the Shattered. Going back to that whole Kimberly Hart thing, the followers of Drakon, his Ranger Sentries, most of whom have been lost without someone to follow, have tried to live normal lives in the new world under the rule of Kimberly Hart, the Ranger Slayer. But they find themselves in conflict with those who fought against Lord Drakon, people called the Coinless, who hold quite a bit of resentment against the Sentries. So, while Kimberly is dealing with that conflict between those two factions, she learns of an old prison created by Drakon called the Deadlock. Leading her forces on a raid of the prison to free its prisoners, Kimberly stumbles upon a hidden cell holding an incredibly capable and mysterious prisoner, a ranger in a metal suit who it turns out to be Jason Lee Scott, the original Red Ranger. His rescue from the prison prompted a message to be sent out that brought Eclipta, the emissary of Dark Spectre, to the planet. Now, using a Black Dragon Zord's hand as a new Morphin diffuser, like the one that Drakon used to make the Sentries in the first place, Kimberly convinced the other surviving Rangers, Jason, Trini, and Zack, to use their coins to give literally everyone a portion of the Ranger power, putting them all on the grid and making them the Shattered, a whole army of Ranger-powered people. They put the beat down on Eclipta before the coins shattered and everyone went back to normal. Number 3, the Morphinot. This is kind of a cheat, as the Ranger the Morphinot becomes is not really new. This Ranger was a mysterious figure whose identity was unrevealed. They appeared in both Power Rangers in Space and Power Rangers Turbo. The Phantom Ranger hailed from the same homeworld as Zordon, known as Eltar. Now in the comics though, we learn that before he was known as the Phantom Ranger, this Ranger had a different alias, the Morphinot. As the Morphinot, over 10,000 years ago in the past, he was trapped inside the Morphin Grid as a preventative measure to protect others from the evil that lurked around its perimeters. Hundreds of years in the past, the Morphinot ended up being freed from the Morphin Grid and would go on to help the Squadron Rangers in their fight against the Dark Spectre. Eventually, the Morphinot became corrupted by the Dark Spectre, which he chose to do in order to protect the Squadron Rangers. His armor turned black, and although the Squadron Rangers would later defeat Dark Spectre, freeing the Morphinot from their influence, the Morphinot's armor would remain black, and they would take on the name of Phantom Ranger in their new form. Number 2. The Emissaries. The Emissaries are ancient warriors that represent the Morphin Masters, an ancient civilization dedicated to studying the Morphin Grid. Now they each represent a different Ranger color, red, yellow, and blue, and what's cool about them is that they don't really have one solid form. They're constantly phasing in between different Ranger forms, taking on different Rangers from over the years, like Ninja Storm Red or Time Force Blue, etc, etc. These Emissaries actually used to be Rangers themselves, the Squadron Rangers, but during their battle with Dark Spectre, like we talked about before, they essentially become conduits of the grid, just letting its power consume them completely until they became one with it. Now, as these celestial beings, the Emissaries are supremely powerful guardians of the grid that exist outside of the realm of time and space, observing events across time and watching over the various Ranger teams that fight to protect their worlds. Such a cool concept. Finally, in at number 1, it's Yale of Sard. Okay, honestly, had no idea that a feline could be a Power Ranger, but I am so glad that that's the case. This is awesome. Okay, so Yale is a cat-like alien from the planet of Sard. Yale was originally the runt of the litter, which actually allowed him to survive when the rest of the family did not. Yale became empowered by the Morphin Grid, which inadvertently caused a massive explosion and had the Omega Ranger arrive on Sard to apprehend the little cat. What's interesting is that Yale actually proved too strong for these already incredibly powerful Omega Rangers. Yale was eventually depowered and became like a pet for the Omega Rangers, living on their ship with them, and eventually saving the leader, Zack, from the Horrid. But eventually Yale comes into contact with the Blue Omega Morpher thanks to a mysterious figure, the Blue Emissary, like we talked about before. And man, Yale is such a cool looking Blue Ranger. His strength and forgiveness make him an excellent addition to the Omega team.
Number 10. Super Sentai. That's Sentai. If we're talking about Power Rangers, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about their inspiration, Super Sentai. Yes, I know they might not technically be a version of the Power Rangers, but screw it, it's important. Super Sentai was the original Japanese team found in the famous series. It generally involves 5 people who receive special powers and fight evil with the help of their mechanical beasts or vehicles, often combining to form a larger version. This idea was eventually taken to the West using the series Kyoryo Sentai Tsurenga as a rubric to bring us the Power Rangers. It even kept the same episode style, with the colorful good guys beating up the baddie of the week, which then gets bigger, so the good guys combine into a Megazord to get bigger, and they beat the big bad. Super Sentai is super predictable, but hey, it has 42 seasons, so I guess it's working. Number 9. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I think it's important to throw up the OG Power Rangers, at least in the West, so non-fans have something to compare other versions to. This was the show that first introduced us to this type of series, and it was a hit. Rocking the aforementioned colorful spandex suits, 5 young people fought evil with the help of their awesome Dinozords. What are Dinozords? Only badass mechs based on prehistoric beasts. No big deal. Interestingly, while Western actors were used in the dialogue scenes, many of the action scenes were actually taken from the original Super Sentai series to save money, and that's not really uncommon in Power Rangers. Number 8. Power Rangers Turbo. Power Rangers Turbo involves a new take on the Rangers where they have Turbozords. Then by that I mean they have cars. If you're getting Transformers vibes, you should be. However, as per usual, the Turbozords can all come together if they're in trouble to form a Turbo Megazord, which was at the time the most powerful Megazord ever created. I was about 7 when this first came out, and I can remember being so disappointed when the awesome dinosaurs were replaced with frickin' cars, but some people like it. Number 7. The 2017 film. I think everyone was waiting for this one to come up. The 2017 film took quite a few creative liberties to make the franchise a bit more adult and grittier, as well as somewhat more realistic and less campy. Gone are the spandex suits that inexplicably shoot sparks when they're hit. They were replaced with awesome suits of armor that both look amazing and offer more realistic protection. The film wasn't perfect, but it was visually pretty awesome and had probably the coolest Megazord I've ever seen. Plus, Bryan Cranston. Come on. Number 6. Power Rangers Wild Prime. In this version of the Rangers, the immortal Amazon Gaia called upon the Prime Beasts to find 5 warriors to fight against the evil sorceress, who also used to be a fellow Amazon. This gave us 5 new Rangers with animal motifs to their costumes, who used their various Prime Zords, including Eagle, Shark, Lion, Elephant, and Tiger. They also teamed up with 2 different sets of Power Rangers teams, including the Pirate Armada Rangers and a veteran team with Rangers from all different series. They fight against the evil sorceress, who turns out to be an eco-terrorist, leading to some environmental themes in the show. It gets kinda Captain Planet-y, but it's pretty cool.
Number 5. Snageye. This robotic general was created to serve the Void Queen during the 2nd season of Dino Fury. He pledged his eternal loyalty to his queen, who demanded that he destroy the Rangers. He was given data on the Dino Fury Rangers' powers, which allowed him to easily defeat the 6 Rangers. The chessboard buckle on his torso contains a pocket dimension, which he was able to use to imprison his foes. It was only through the betrayal of the Void Knight that the Rangers were able to escape the pocket dimension. He then went up against the Red Ranger, who managed to destroy this robot bishop general using the Dino Knight strike. So, though he was only in 1 episode, the fact that he was able to absolutely wipe the floor with the Rangers is pretty impressive. Number 4. Wreckmate. Yet another Dino Fury villain. Wreckmate has a lot of themes going on at once. He is a robot who looks like a rook from a chess set, but he's also a pirate as well as a general. He's just a lot. He's a lot. He was built from the parts of a boat, but became a giant when the Void Knight gave him a Sporix. The Dino Fury Rangers fought him underwater in their Dino Fury Megazord warrior formation, but Wreckmate proved too powerful and was able to defeat the Megazord. Before he could destroy it, he was interrupted by the Moza Razor Zord and presumed dead. He entered a competition with his rival teammate Slither to see who could kill the most Rangers, with the loser having to leave forever, though both were of course unsuccessful and unable to score a point. He served the Void Queen soon after, often clashing with and failing to defeat the Rangers. He has shoulder-mounted cannons which can fire cannonballs, energy blasts, lasers, and torpedoes. As a pirate ship-themed robot chess piece, he was of course capable of surviving underwater like a submarine, making him just as dangerous on land as he was on water. Number 3. General Tynemon. Going back to the Super Ninja Steel season, where the Rangers were involved with the whole Galaxy Warriors thing, Tynemon was the manager of one of the most famous fighters, Brax, but was hiding a small secret. It turns out that Tynemon was in fact a small creature who, embarrassed by his small stature, had constructed a robot body to make himself look bigger. Tynemon, Tiny Man, I get it, cute. So Tynemon was approached by the villainous Madame Odious, who offered to grow Tynemon to the size he desired if he and Brax would help her destroy the Rangers. He agreed and began a campaign against the heroes. His main weapon is his staff, which can create a protective barrier and can fire a rope line to ensnare and move his enemies. In his final battle with the Rangers, he is hit by the Gigantify Ray, letting him finally achieve his dream of being huge. This was short-lived, however, and he was defeated by the Ninja Steel Ultrazord Blast and died, never really having gotten the opportunity to enjoy his new size. Number 2. King Aredon. Our next villain was actually mentioned in passing by Zordon in Power Rangers Zeo all the way back in 1996, but we didn't get to actually meet this king until just last year in the Mighty Morphin comic book series. After Earth was weakened by the Altarian War and Earth's command center was destroyed, the ruler of the Automaton Dominion, King Aredon, decided to take advantage of the situation and sent scouts to the command center's ruins, where they tried to ambush the Red Ranger. He decided that Earth was ripe for the taking and declared himself ruler with the aid of his general, Count Karnakas. He offered to spare the Green Ranger's life if he stepped aside and allowed the king to destroy Zordon. When the Ranger refused, the two entered a heated battle, which was aided by Red Ranger Rocky, who helped the Rangers triumph over the evil king. Number 1. Leisure. This villain appeared in an episode of the Dino Supercharge season and is vaguely summer themed. There is so much going on visually with this character. She has an ice cream cone for an arm, and a lobster claw coming out of a sun hat for the other. She has fish pants and palm trees for eyes. The longer I look at this villain, the more I feel like I'm having a stroke. 100,000 years ago, Leisure used her vacation ray on the cavemen, which made them all want to take a break from their work and go on vacation. This got so bad that everyone almost starved as no one was hunting, but she was imprisoned in a cave and the effects of her beam were reversed, and as a result, we got hustle culture. She was accidentally released by the Rangers, and despite looking so odd, turned out to be extremely powerful, beating the 7 Rangers with ease before firing her vacation beam on the entire planet, making everyone, including the Rangers, just stop what they were doing to go on vacation. They eventually attacked Leisure with the Plesio Charge Megazord, but she used her ice cream arm triple scoop twist attack to defend herself. She was eventually defeated, and everyone got back to work. Yay!
Number 10. Crash and the Creeps. Okay, so this one is pretty different from anything else you will hear on this list, but hey, we need to talk about it. Now, Crash and the Creeps are both kind of monsters, but also Rangers in a way. They were created by Divatox during Power Rangers Turbo. Originally, they were members of Cassie's, the Pink Turbo Rangers band. They are unique in a way because they don't really share the same designs as the Turbo Rangers, or each other for that matter. Whenever they would perform their main song, it would not only mess with the concentration of the Rangers, but a lot of other citizens of Angel Grove as well. They were only in one episode, but because they were so different and unique in regards to other evil Rangers, mainly just because of how they look. Number 9. The Dark Rangers. In Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Lord Zed chose these new bullies at Angel Grove High to become the Dark Rangers, since they basically felt like the city should be theirs anyway. Lord Zed teleports these bullies to the dimension known as Otherworld, and uses the green crystal to transform these bullies into the Dark Rangers. These bullies are sort of like the same counterparts to the original Rangers, even sharing the same first letter of each of their names. But once the Green Rangers is able to eliminate the crystal, it destroys the Dark Rangers and turns them back into people again. However, in the new comic series, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 55, which just came out recently, they are doing their own take on these Dark Rangers. They were created by Lord Zed to turn Rita Repulsa, Squawk, Goldar, Finster, and Babu into Dark Rangers. We get Rita as the Red Ranger, Babu as the Black Ranger, Goldar as the Yellow Ranger, Squawk as the Blue Ranger, and Finster, who is the Pink Ranger. Each of these new Dark Rangers also have Lord Zed Zed on their suit's chest. Ugh, there's a tongue twister. Lord Zed Zed. Number 8. The Shadow Rangers. In Power Rangers Turbo, we got introduced to the Shadow Rangers. These Shadow Rangers are basically clones of the Turbo Rangers. They almost look identical to the actual Turbo Rangers, but they have gray helmets instead. One of Divatox's monsters, a Shadow Chromite, stole the Rangers' powers when they were morphing. This is when these Shadow Rangers appeared and attacked them. Tommy finds out that these Shadow Rangers were created by refracted light, and to eliminate these enemies, one must defeat them in darkness. He's able to bring these Shadow Rangers into the shadows, no pun intended, and defeat them. They end up defeating the Shadow Chromonite by using the Turbo Megazord to basically block the Shadow Chromonite's life source, eliminating the Shadow Chromonite itself. Number 7. Green Ranger Shredder. So everyone knows the evil villain Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe. But in a special event series that led to a non-continuity crossover between the Power Rangers and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder is able to gain access to the Dragon Power Coin and get the Green Ranger's Morpher to be able to turn into the Green Ranger Shredder. Yeah, I never thought that would happen. And he looks so friggin' cool. Like, check him out, guys. Now, this isn't even the first time we have seen the Power Rangers crossover with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It also happened during Power Rangers in Space. The suit itself is just so amazing, and it's a great combination of what Shredder is used to wearing, but upgraded and meshed with the Green Ranger suit. Definitely wouldn't want to take him on. Number 6. Cyborg Rangers. So in the season of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, General McKnight, who is the general of the headquarters, tells the Lightspeed Rangers that they are being replaced by the Cyborg Rangers. Basically, the Cyborg Rangers are like artificial intelligence, and they can control from the base. These Cyborg Rangers are almost identical to the Lightspeed Rangers, with only a few minor differences. They feel that they will be able to get the job done much better than the actual Lightspeed Rangers. When the Cyborg Rangers are on a mission, they are fighting villains and are actually winning and doing quite well. But once the villain uses his lightning ability and blasts the Cyborg Rangers with it, basically alters their systems. See, this is why we can't trust artificial intelligence. Am I right, guys? Anyways, it alters their systems and makes them turn, you guessed it, evil. Trying to do harm instead of trying to protect. The original Lightspeed Rangers are called back in to defeat these Cyborg Rangers and save the day.
Number 5, the Dimension X Rangers. So Ranger X for Extreme got his powers by being given a morpher with an X on it. It turns out that there are actually 4 more of these X-themed morphers, and they apparently once belonged to the Power Rangers native to Dimension X, where General Krang has pretty much obliterated everything and has set up his shop. So these Power Rangers were pretty long gone by the time this story comes around. Well, during Volume 2 of the comic, the Ninja Turtles head to the mysterious dimension while the Rangers stay on Earth and fight their fight. The Turtles end up stumbling upon these 4 Dimension X Ranger morphers, and in an awesome panel, we see them turn into the Dimension X Rangers. Now, with their own power coins and morphers, the Turtles are able to morph into a Ranger team all of their own, and they kick some serious butt. Number 4, the Solar Rangers. Debuting in May 2019, we got 6 Solar Rangers who were actually just a combination of 6 different Rangers from the canon that we've seen before. But the original 7 Solar Rangers were created by Praetor thousands of years ago when the Void was disconnected from the Morphin grid. The Solarix devices were used to sever this universe from the grid, but also to empower a team of Rangers to defend this universe until it could finally reconnect with the grid. Over time, as the Solar Rangers grew old, Praetor lost faith that the Void would ever be reconnected to the grid, and so he sought out each Ranger's Solarix with the intent of destroying them. Unfortunately, he was able to bring down 6 of the Solar Rangers and their Solarix, but the 7th one, the Purple Ranger, managed to get out of there. Over time, the purple Solarix was passed down from person to person until it landed at Alarion. She eventually split the crystal in her Solarix into 6 pieces to power up a new team of Solar Rangers, which was what we were talking about at the beginning of this entry. Number 3, the Promethea Rangers. That new team of Solar Rangers, the ones that debuted in May 2019, weren't just any old Rangers. This team was called the Promethea Rangers, and they each had experience on separate Rangers teams. Other than Ilarion, the Purple Solar Ranger, this team was made up of the Ranger Slayer, Kimberly Ann Hart, who is not someone to scoff at. One of my favorite Rangers, Magna Defender, Mike Corbett, the 2nd Yellow Zeo Ranger, Tanya Sloan, the Dino Charged Dark Ranger, Heckle, the Green Samurai Ranger, Cameron Watanabe, and the Red Space Ranger, Andros. So if you know anything about Power Rangers, you should know that none of these Rangers are pushovers, not even by a little bit. They will rock your shit. They were all on board the Promethea and were recruited by Grace Sterling to save the Rangers Lord Drakon had depowered. Things didn't go quite to plan, but if you want to know the details, you may have to do the necessary reading because I'm moving on. Number 2, the Mighty Mutant Power Rangers. Okay, I know, a lot of this list is TMNT and Rangers, but look, I've just been reading it and I find it to be so much fun, so let me just indulge here, and also you should definitely check out this comic because it's pretty cool. Okay, so in volume 2 of TMNT/Power Rangers, the Rangers all lose access to being able to morph and are left powerless yet again like they were in volume 1. But thankfully, Billy and Donatello have been chumming around together, running experiments and having a good old grand smartass time. One such experiment seemed to be with the mutagen that turned the Turtles into what they are, and with the power coins themselves. The results of all that experimenting was the Mighty Mutant Power Rangers. Essentially, this is the 6 Mighty Morphin Rangers turning themselves into mutated dinosaur versions of themselves. So they each become an anthropomorphic mastodon, pterodactyl, triceratops, saber-toothed tiger, Tyrannosaurus rex, and I guess a dragon, which isn't really a dinosaur, but it's just so cool. And finally, in at number 1, it's the Ranger Sentries. The Ranger Sentries were essentially an army created by a corrupted and evil version of Tommy Oliver, the infamous and insanely powerful Lord Drakon. In the world of the Coinless and alternate reality, Drakon created a whole army of humans who wore mass-produced Ranger armor. The Mastodon Sentries, in their super cool black and white costumes, acted as like the police force and the bulk of the army in this world. The pink Pterodactyl Sentries were the long-range sniper infantry in support for the Mastodons. The green Zeo Sentries were the mobile infantry, and they also had these awesome tank mechs that were super cool. The silver Space Sentries were the air support, and they had super sweet jetpacks and energy blasters, so obviously super cool there as well. Jetpacks are always a win. But then we had the Jungle Fury Rhinos, who were essentially tanks, just big, hulking, strong guys in massive armor, also very cool. There were blue Samurai Sentries, and they seemed to be the melee foot soldiers of the army, as a force of them with the Mastodon Sentries invaded the city of Corinth. And we also got these awesome Dino-charged Gold Sentries, who had these massive shields and super heavy firepower, and they would make up shield walls. They were just so dope. Next up would be the Saber-tooth Sentries in yellow, who seem to act as lieutenants, and they are the step under the Tyrannosaurus Sentries, the Red Rangers of the army. armies, who serve as the personal elite guard of Drakon and the other evil forces like Rita Repulsa and Scorpina. That was a lot, I know, but as you might have picked up, each of these class of soldiers were based on a ranger from across the Power Rangers universe, which is really interesting, after Drakon went through and took the morphers from at least one of every single team that has ever existed. So that's kinda cool. Also a little scary, but. Number 10, Zeta. In 2021 and 2022, we got the 28th and 29th seasons of Power Rangers. Power Rangers Dino Fury. The Red Ranger and leader of the Dino Fury Rangers, Zeta is courageous and compassionate, strengthened by the support of his teammates and his new experiences on Earth. Zeta has truly grown into his role as a leader, but he doesn't really need to grow into anything because Zeta here is actually not a human. He's a Rafkonian from the planet Rafkon, and he led the ancient Dino Fury Rangers 65 million years ago. So he's got quite a bit of experience under his belt. In 2023, we get the Cosmic Fury Rangers team, which is one of the rare times where the cast of a Rangers show from the previous 2 seasons go on to remain the Rangers for the next evolution of the Rangers franchise, and Zeta will return as the Cosmic Fury Zenith Ranger, dressed in all white like his Dino Fury Ghost Ranger form, which happened when he was taken out and revived by the Morphin Masters. Number 9, Aeon. But Zeta wasn't the only new ranger from Dino Fury. Going over all the other rangers seems like cheating for this list, but there is one ranger who joined the team later that I thought was pretty cool. The Dino Fury Gold Ranger, Aeon. Aeon was also a Rafkonian just like Zeta, and they even knew each other all those millions of years ago. Upon being cornered while fighting against Tynemon, Zeta and the others witness the arrival of the mysterious Gold Ranger, who comes to assist them, and then later on, he reveals himself, explaining to Zeta that he managed to escape the destruction of Ultrazord along with Zeta during the Great Sporix Wars before being stranded and put to sleep in the sea for 65 million years. Aeon was reawakened by the Green Morphin Master, and just like Zeta, Aeon's Rafkonian physiology gives him access to telepathic powers like retrocognition, memory reading, and memory transferal, plus somehow super eyesight. He is set to be the Cosmic Fury Gold Ranger when that season releases in September of 2023. In at number 8, Steele Silva. Before we had Dino Fury, we had Beast Morphers in 2019 and 2020, and for me, one member of this ranger team stands out among the rest of the normal humies. The Grid Battle Force Silver Ranger Steele Silva. Steele is actually a robot, or should I say, he was a robot. He was created by the Gold Ranger of the team, Nate Silva. The robot absorbed human DNA from Nate and DNA from a scarab beetle, and this transformed it into the Silver Ranger, and technically Nate's brother. The bot had not been given a name until he addressed himself as, quote, Mr. Fantastic Super Handsome Strong as Steel, but Nate told him just stick with Steel, and so Steele Silva was born. Eventually, Steel sacrificed himself to drain Evox of most of his power by taking a devastating double energy attack to his stomach, which ultimately destroyed him. But it wasn't the end, as Master Green of the Morphin Masters saw his heroic sacrifice and resurrected Steel as a human so he could continue on as the Silver Ranger. Number 7, Matthew Cook. Nearly every other ranger in the history of the franchise has had to deal with the burden of balancing their personal lives with their superhero activities. But this doesn't seem to be a problem for the newest Green Ranger, Matthew Cook. Matthew was another classmate of the original Mighty Morphin Rangers, and when he realized who they were, he confronted them on it, eventually becoming the new Green Ranger in place of Tommy Oliver, who became the White Ranger. When Lord Zed trapped the citizens of Angel Grove with an energy bubble, like you do, the Green Ranger revealed himself as Matthew to the rest of the people in order to improve morale, but with the added benefit of now being a well-known hero in the community. Unfortunately, he does seem to join Lord Zed's army and betray his friends, but I kinda doubt this is a legit thing. Number 6, the Ranger Slayer. Kimberly Hart was not a new character. She was actually the original Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger, and the ranger that all the other guys in school had a crush on. But she is straight up a total badass. But for this point on the list, I want to talk about the Kimberly Hart of a different reality. In said alternate reality, the world of the Coinless, this version of Kimberly became a deadly ranger named the Ranger Slayer under the mind control of the incredibly powerful Lord Drakon. As the Ranger Slayer, Kimberly piloted the Gravezord and was also the leader of the Promethea Rangers team, which which included another powerful ranger, Magna Defender, one of my favorites. She also wielded the bow/sword of darkness, and the Ranger Slayer initially worked for Lord Drakon before breaking free of his mind control. After Drakon's fall, the Ranger Slayer takes the place of Lord Drakon in the new timeline.
Number 5. The Thunder Rangers. Man, let me start off by saying Power Rangers Ninja Storm is seriously one of the best seasons that they have ever done. They have great team, great suits, an awesome villain, and some of the best character development in any Power Rangers season. Plus, they also had 2 of the best evil Rangers, Hunter and Blake, who are also known as the Crimson and Navy Thunder Rangers. They were tricked by Lothar, who was the main big bad of the season, into thinking the Wind Rangers were the bad guys and that they were responsible for their parents' death. They constantly got the upper hand on Shane, Tori, and Dustin, but in the end, realized the truth and eventually became their allies. Their journey was one of the highlights of the season as you understand why they were doing what they were doing. Throw in the fact that they had some of the coolest suits and moments of any evil Rangers, and it just makes for an amazing evil Ranger. Number 4, the White Dino Ranger. Trent Fernandez Mercer, aka the White Dino Ranger. Trent was the adoptive son of the big bad of the season, Mesogog, also known as Tommy's former colleague and friend, Anton Mercer. Trent's real parents were archaeologists who were killed while on a mission with Anton, so he decided to take him in. Trent eventually comes in contact with the White Dino Gem, which was created by Tommy and Anton, and turns into the White Ranger, which gives him one of the coolest Ranger suits ever. Like seriously, it's in the top 5. The Dino Gem gives him super speed and the ability to camouflage. The gem was tampered with and ended up corrupting him, which is why he ended up going evil, since before he found it, Trent was friends with Connor, Ethan, and Kira, and of course Tommy Oliver, who is now known as Dr. Tommy Oliver, since he earned a PhD in paleontology, which is something I never thought would happen. But I mean, in Power Rangers universe, I guess, anything is possible. But back to Trent, he became one of the greatest evil Rangers by not only besting the main 3 Dino Rangers, but also Tommy on multiple occasions, who, as everyone knows, is one of the best. Like a lot of other evil Rangers, he ends up turning to the good side eventually, but that does not take away from all the mayhem he caused before that point. Number 3, Lord Draken. Okay, so this was tough because Lord Draken could have easily been number 1. And I mean, this just shows you how many good evil Rangers there are. I mean, because of all the things he's done, and the fact that he's brand new, which makes it even more impressive. He's Tommy Oliver from an alternate universe, who, after being defeated by Jason, decided to stay evil and went back to Rita. His goal from then on was to not only destroy the Rangers of his world, but every world. He created Ranger Sentries from the powers of the Rangers he killed, and technically he ultimately won by creating his own dimension, although they ended up changing it. But Draken killed so many Rangers and destroyed so many worlds that overall he did accomplish more than any evil Ranger ever, and that's a massive achievement. Plus, Jason David Frank actually got to play him in live action for the Shattered Grade comic event trailer, which was very cool. Here's hoping we get to see Lord Draken officially show up in a Power Rangers film or TV show one day, because that would be so awesome. Number 2, the Green Ranger. Okay, so I might get a little hate for this, maybe, since a lot of people would consider Tommy to be number 1. Because yes, he is awesome, and he almost was number 1. This was really hard. Tommy was the original evil Ranger. He started the trend. The Green Ranger was so popular. I mean, everyone loved him. After he was gone, they got so many requests to bring him back that they did bring him back. He consistently defeated the Rangers in battle. I mean, he even jumped into the Megazord and destroyed them in there, something that no other villain did. And it didn't end there. He even teleported into the command center and he destroyed it. He seriously injured Alpha and Zordon. The latter took a long time for them to fix. Once they found out that it was their friend Tommy, it caused even more of a rift because he knew everything about them. There would be no evil Power Rangers without Tommy, and he will always be remembered as one of the best. But now we head on to number 1. The Psycho Rangers. Now, like I said, I know a lot of people would put Tommy as number 1, and rightfully so. But while Tommy started the trend of the Evil Rangers, the Psycho Rangers took that concept and ran with it. They were absolutely terrifying, and not only tormented one Ranger team, but 2. They fought both the Space Rangers and the Lost Galaxy Rangers, where the Pink Psycho Ranger was technically responsible for the death of the Pink Lost Galaxy Ranger, Kendricks, which was the first time a Ranger had actually died in the show's history, which was a massive deal. They were so popular that they even ended up introducing a new Psycho Ranger in the comics, the Green Psycho Ranger, who was, you guessed it, also insanely evil, killing Rangers from the original Mighty Morphin team who went on a mission to the moon in the year 1969. Now, of course, that is during comic continuity and not TV show continuity, but regardless, they changed everything. I mean, they even returned in the new graphic novel Power Rangers the Psycho Path, which was also amazing.